No, it's 2:08. Oh, crikey, what is it? 10 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock in the AM. I've been asleep twice, woke up twice. Once there's someone running around outside. And second time, young fellas were doing weights at like 1:30 this morning. What the hell? Anyway, here's what it is. Good on him, I suppose. With donk. After my shed being robbed here a little while ago, I tend to... Why? We were about to kind of find out why. Andrew Bustamante, yeah, whatever you think of him, I don't care. It's neither here nor there to me. Apparently ex-CIA. But you listen to him, and because I know a little bit about the dirty underworld of things, he's not off the mark. He's not off the target. Right? We're about to talk about, and this only goes 17 minutes or something. It's all up with my babbling, probably 20 minutes. Clandestine informants, or confidential informants, whatever you want to call it. Red herrings. Clandestine informants. They're an asset to police, to FBI, to federal police, to the DS, drug squads, all that, all levels, worldwide. It's not like it's just in America; it's everywhere, especially the Western nations. And red herrings. Red herrings? What's a red herring? Well, he's talking about Epstein. I don't think he's going to spill the beans completely on... I don't think there are any Epstein files. I think Epstein himself is a red herring. We know I haven't always thought that, see? I am capable of changing my opinion. Not jumping all over the place. Coming to a point where I think, honestly, he talks about the Epstein files. Now, I think it's something that can just be pulled out of the drawer now whenever they want a red herring. Oh, this person was on, this person, that person, anywhere in the world. He also goes on about what he thinks, which is not exactly what I've been thinking, but it most certainly does add credence to my theory on United States and China going into hot war within 12 months, next year sometime. Where the United States government and the Chinese Communist Party are really enemies or frenemies is irrelevant. What is relevant is I honestly believe that America does not have the economy or really what's needed to compete with China, because China actually doesn't care about global economy. They just keep printing money. They don't care. They look at the economy from a completely different point of view to what we do. Doesn't matter what the government thinks or what they tell us they think. What we believe, what we think. Anyway, get into this. I'll drink a little bit of my Milo. Hopefully that'll help calm me down and I'll go to sleep.
This one feels like the ugly under-the-hood machinations of the world came up to the surface, and people are just like, there's no way I'm going to let you see how things actually work. Drew, my producer, who's just off camera right now, hi Drew, has said, you'll never get the Epstein files. Like, he's been saying that from day one. What's happening? Give me the FBI angle.
Yeah, there's the truth is somewhere in between the two extremes, which is what so often turns out to be true, right? So, Jeffrey Epstein was doing a lot of illegal stuff on his own. In the eyes of the justice system, a bad guy doing bad things is useful. It's helpful.
That's so wild.
Because bad guys doing bad things are almost always connected to other bad guys doing other bad things. Mm-hmm. And that opens up this access route, this utility for the Justice Department to say, oh, well, now we have a smorgasbord of bad guys, but we only have access to these bad guys through this one bad guy here. So they created this process called the CI, a covert informant or a clandestine informant. The CI's job is to inform and to gain and grant access to a wider net of bad guys.
And this is specifically an FBI thing.
It's specifically a law enforcement thing.
Okay.
So
it could be CIA or FBI.
CIA is not law enforcement.
Interesting.
Yeah, CIA's job is intelligence collection, not law enforcement.
They tend to kill people.
They use.
Right, you what he said there? It's specifically a law enforcement thing. Now, what happens? What happens when you get a situation, because we're not America, this is Australia, and like, we have a lot of corruption that goes unchecked because we, unlike the United States, have a situation where our Police Integrity Commission is the police. It's still the police. They investigate themselves. So of course, even corruption that's been found, unearthed, like internal investigations. Don't tell me they're not in on it. Of course they are. Who do you think the absolute top head of internal investigations is? Detective Flood. I ran internal investigations before and ended up talking to him. And he basically said to me, look mate, what's going to happen is if you go ahead with this, we're just going to charge you for making a false statement. Unless you have video footage to prove your story. Yeah, that's how that works. If you can't back everything up with video footage, I'll just charge you with making a false statement. Not my words, Detective Flood's. Now what happens when any investigation comes full circle for, say, drug trafficking, and comes full circle back to the police? We've looked into it, investigated the situation and found ourselves clear of any wrongdoing. They're barking up the wrong tree. She's charged for a false statement time. See how that works? What does that create? That creates a situation as well in a lot of situations where there's a funding scenario. The more charges that a station, a region gets, the more it looks like they need more funding and more resources, so they get more funding and resources, which means they get more money, more toys, more gadgets, more privileges, more jobs for mates. It's good for business, basically. Crime is a business. Without crime, you don't need police. Without police, you don't have crime. Not really. You see, it's not so much about getting bonus payment. They don't get bonus payment per se. What they get is, with the revolving door system, is more and more and more charges, more and more success, more and more got them on a plea deal, 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 got them on a plea deal. See where I'm going with this? The more plea deals, the more charges, the more charges, the more funding and the more crime that there is, and the more charges that each officer gets individually, the quicker and higher they climb up the ranks, which means their salary goes up. It's not so much about getting that one-off bonus now and then. It's about climbing the ranks real fast to get up to the big salaries. Constable salary, shit money. Not much better than rock and roll. But once you start getting up to sergeant and senior constable sergeant, senior sergeant, all that, you start rising up. Detective, senior detective. Now, there seems to be all this imaginary new levels. By creating new levels, they create higher salary brackets. Now, how do they get to the higher salary brackets? Simple. They just get more and more successful charges. The more the merrier. It's a racket. And how do they keep this going? Simple. Plea deals outside of a courtroom. But they're using the judicial system, not the judiciary. You've got to, right, differentiate. The judiciary is the people group. The judicial system is a system. Now, how do they create this? What's a real good way to create all this? The CIs, clandestine informants. And sometimes they're just useful idiots who take plea deals. Bit of information, you only do 2 years out of 9. A couple of people that I know that will watch this will know exactly who and what I'm talking about here. Who, even? About 4 or 5 of them. The rotating system of 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out, and they just mix it up a little bit so it's not always the same 2 every time. Some of them do their time, but they're still useful idiots. How? They're the crabs in the bottom of the bucket that pull everyone back into that lifestyle that are trying to sort themselves out. I believe that there's one out at the moment who's literally on the payroll. What we call the crackheads on the payroll. I believe there's one out at the moment that's literally on the payroll. He does the job too well. He's too well built. Just a whole bunch of things about him. He's a dumb motherfucker, but he's fucking sharp as a tack. He always comes out of jail from too high a position. He doesn't come out from ground zero. He goes in at ground zero but comes out a bit too high up the ladder. Financially, that sort of stuff. I think he's set up to set people up. And he always does the rounds. As soon as he gets out, he's on to everyone. Turning up at their houses. Somehow gets everybody's phone numbers, text messages them, all that stuff. How did you get the number? How did you get the number? How's he getting their numbers? Yeah, I wonder how my phone got hacked the other day with a brand spanking new phone number and only 3 people had that number and not one single government agency has it. Ha ha. I'm getting prank phone calls. I only had the phone for 2 weeks. No one has that number. I smell something and it's rotten from the head. Now, red herrings. And this goes back more to we're about to go from local. That was just an example of what I see, what I know happens at the local level. The revolving door system, you know. He's basically explained how our revolving door system operates at every level. Now we're about to go right up the ladder on why he's saying that there is an Epstein file. He'd be sworn to some kind of secrecy where there's no way he would admit that there isn't one. And there was also no way he would admit that Epstein's still alive. Yeah, that's a conspiracy theory, isn't it? But I think there's a lot more credence to that than the official story. Because no one's buying that.
used to be more able to kill people than they currently are. So law enforcement falls under the judicial branch. Intelligence collection falls under the executive branch. That's why the president can do whatever the hell he wants to with CIA, but the president cannot do whatever he wants to with if.
See what he said there? Falls under the judicial branch, not the judiciary. Judicial branch. The judiciary are the judges and magistrates. The judicial branch is the system. You have to differentiate between the two.
FBI, right? That's how it was that FBI could investigate the president and how he decided to have a backlash against the FBI. CIA, he just says no. He just shuts off their budget and tells them he doesn't listen to them and stops using them, and that's how you have the mass exodus of 2016 that you had at CIA during Trump's first administration. So you have these two different branches of the government. One controls CIA, the executive branch. One controls FBI, the judicial branch. That also means that Donald Trump can say, release the Epstein files, and that doesn't have any impact on the judicial branch. They don't have.
But it's Kash Patel that makes that decision, or someone else?
So they can be pressured into acting when the legislative branch and the executive branch both work together in a checks and balance way.
But like if Pam Bondi and Kash Patel say we're releasing it, there's nobody else, right?
Not really, yeah. They can choose to do that on their own as long as it fits American law. American law is dictated by the legislative branch. Mm-hmm. So here's why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because even if our legislative branch votes to have the judicial branch release the files, that does not mean that they control what gets released or where it's released. So the files might be released only to the Senate Intelligence Committee or only to a subcommittee in charge of law enforcement, not to the American people. They're not gonna vote today and then tomorrow you're gonna have full access to every file. They also might only release redacted files because there's going to be lines and details inside all of the files that have law enforcement, intelligence, or national security relevance. So it's all going to be redacted. You're already seeing that in the emails that were leaked recently from House members. Who makes those redactions? The Department of Justice makes those redactions. Why do they make those redactions? Because they're protecting other cases that they're trying to close for criminal conviction. So release the files. What's laughable to me is that they can release the files and the average American still won't see them because they're not going to be released to the public. They'll be released to subcommittees. They'll be released from the current kind of bucket of control they're in the Justice Department, and they'll be released to the Legislative Department. And then the Legislative Department and the subcommittees there will determine whether or not it should be released to the public or it should go right back to the Judicial Department because we have to protect XYZ case. Epstein as a CI was incredibly valuable because as much as he did bad things, the people that he had in his...
Yeah, just think of this. To protect XYZ case, did you notice the wink? XYZ case could very well mean, and does very well mean quite often, have to protect our own on this side of the thin blue line, that side of the thin blue line. Maybe that case is a case of their own that is never meant to get solved. That is a thing. Believe me. Sometimes they have to protect the case so that it doesn't get solved. Ever. Because why? It's too far up it's too high up the rank. It's way too high. Heads will roll. And people will lose complete faith in the constabulary and justice system. Hence, the Wood Royal Commission getting canned by John Howard for 90 years. Of the 28 high-profile pedophiles in Australia, including an ex-Prime Minister, it shouldn't have got canned by Prime Minister John Howard. Is he the Prime Minister? Who knows? No. Because the Wood Royal Commission happened in his time. So, that means it was somebody else. Oh dear. No, not Paul Keating. It was before him. It could be anybody. Anyway, I think you get what I'm trying to say here. Sometimes protecting XYZ case means making sure it doesn't get solved. Go back. Red herrings. We're going to red herrings now. What I call pointing out the elephant in the room so nobody notices the sleep paralysis demon under the bed.
Sphere of influence did worse things in the eyes of the law. This is an uncomfortable truth that people need to understand. In the eyes of national security, a pedophile is not that big a risk, yo. That sucks, but it's true. If you're trying to protect a country, if you're trying to protect national secrets, if you're trying to protect our ability to win a war against China, a guy having sex with an underage child is not that important. But when that pedophile is connected to other world leaders, when that pedophile is connected to politicians that might be corrupt, politicians that might be allowing foreign influence in American policy, now all of a sudden that person can be granted amnesty in exchange for their cooperation in advancing the cases for all these other targets. If you haven't discovered your natural-born spy skills, then somebody else may be using theirs against you. CIA teaches us there are only 3 types of people: those who manipulate the QR code on your screen right now to take the test. I want you to discover your hidden spy skill and use it before someone else uses theirs against you. That makes the most sense. In any research I've done, in any expert I've spoken to, in any review of the evidence that we've gotten so far on Epstein, that explanation makes the most sense of any other. That the United States said, hey, you're doing shitty, you're doing bad things. Here's a whole list of things that we can arrest you for and convict you for today. And he saw that list, and then they said, or you can cooperate with us to bring down bigger fish. And what's a guy like that going to say? This isn't the mafia. He doesn't have to worry about somebody, whacking him. He didn't think. So he's like, okay, I'll cooperate with you. Because then if I cooperate with you, you bring down some big fish. I don't ever go to jail for the things that I have to do to stay influential in my network.
Plea deals. So if you think, look at it this way. I know it's America, I know. America. The most corrupt motherfuckers on the planet. Almost. Next to Israel, who are almost next to the Vatican. Now, if you think they're protecting them sort of people at that sort of level, of course they're doing stuff at a lower level. Of course, little fuzzy chin cop at 24 years old, he's going to play the game. Why? Because that's what he's been taught to do. He sees everybody else doing it. Now he wants to play the game. I'm so clever. Or did the thing. You see what I mean? It's a game to him. It's just a game. Plea deals. That's all a game. Just to keep that revolving door going. Just so they can keep catching people. But the problem is, at the lower levels, it's just catching the same people over and over and over again. So I don't completely buy his story either. Why? Because, like I explained the other day, with the game of chess, while they're setting up the chessboard, and we're listening to the pretend arguments, why doesn't the first one ready to go just launch an attack before the other guys finish setting up? Because it's an agreed upon game. Are you ready yet? No. Hurry up, because we're starting to lose the people's confidence. Oh, just pull the Epstein files out again. Oh, good idea. What if there are no Epstein files? Not really. What if it's all just smoke and mirrors to justify a war? For the actual reset. The actual reset that we're all going to champion and proudly go to war for God and country and for democracy and all the fucking bullshit fucking rah rah rah. You know, saluting our dad as he marches off down the driveway and then crying over his coffin when he comes home. Or our sons, brothers, sisters, daughters. Just saying. It's about time we woke up, don't you? Like, really, properly woke up. What are we doing?
And now I'm protected, right? At the end of the day, we all have two instincts that we have to deal with. Our survival instinct and our tribal instinct. And those are the two instincts that drive us. Sometimes we're very survival based. Sometimes we'll sacrifice our survival to be part of a group. In that moment, Epstein was like, I need to survive. I need to take care of me more than I need to take care of my friends, which are my tribal instinct. And then life just is. That's just how human beings are wired. All of us have that same decision matrix every day.
And
we'll send you down to jail. We'll put you in the yard where you'll be king of the hill, but not in with the pedophiles. So you're sort of seen in prison, but not in protection. And do a little bit of time. But we'll look after you. They get 9 years worth of shit on you. I will let you out after 2. That's a pretty big carrot to dangle, isn't it? What for? Round up the usual suspects. Be the cat that chases all the rats out of the shed so we can keep the game going. Huh? Think about that. What's been going on around the place? It's always the same handful of people getting busted over and over and over and over and over again. There's 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out. The cats that chase the rats. The crabs that drag the people back in the bucket that, you know, is starting to escape the system. Well, we can't have them escaping the system. Why? Because then they start mixing with the people that support us, and then they'll all see us for what we are. Trust me, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. It's a racket. Why do you think there's no law? There is no law in this country. Once you become a victim of a crime and you try to, once you become a victim of a crime, or you're convicted of something that you think, how come I get a criminal record out of this? Why is it that ICE is decriminalised in Canberra, but everywhere else in Australia it's a criminal offence, other than Canberra and the Northern Territory? They're both territories, remember. Everywhere else, criminal offence. You get a criminal record, and it's funny how low-level dealers get more chances than addicts. You know, like low-level dealers, evidence seems to go missing. Charges get dropped. They go to court and, you're not on the court list. Turns out, they lost a crucial piece of evidence. It happens a lot more than you'd think. A lot more. But you also got to listen to what he's saying, because it's adding credence to my predictions for next year. I'm watching everything at every level. Everything at every level. I'm watching how it all relates. How red herrings are absolutely everywhere. We're chasing red herrings instead of foxes. That's where the red herring comes from. They couldn't find any red foxes to hunt, so they started using red herrings instead. It's not a fox. Going on a fox hunt to find it was just a red herring.
what do you think about, was he exfilled by the FBI so they could either protect their sources, or did somebody actually have him killed? Or was this just a guy that was like, I don't want to go through the trial?
Yeah, I don't think he killed himself. I will say that
because of evidence.
What has
I don't think he died at all. But anyway, let's go on.
Been released to us so far, when I look at it, it doesn't make biological sense to be able to hang yourself essentially off of a doorknob at a low distance from the ground. It's a very difficult thing to do. So it just seems biologically improbable, not impossible, but improbable. And then even though I have supported wealthy people who have been convicted and are going to prison, I provide counseling and I provide training to shape their mindset before they go into prison.
Whoa!
Because they're going to come out of prison too, right? So I've helped people in that way.
Okay.
I've helped people in that way,
later.
And they all have that same thought that Epstein most likely had, where they're like, it's all over. My wealth is gone, my reputation is gone, my family will forever hate me, my kids are better off without me, so I'm just going to kill myself in jail. I'm just going to give up and never talk to anybody again. They all have that moment, and it's just a mindset moment that they have to work their way through. Without a doubt, Jeffrey Epstein had a consultant like me who came in and coached him on his mindset. Without a doubt, his attorneys would have done it for sure. He had too much wealth behind him for someone not to invest in that way for him. So when I think of probability is he would not have killed himself. Probability is even if he tried biologically, it wouldn't have been successful. So then what did happen? Was he killed in an organized criminal activity, or was he killed as a political martyr of some sort? But most likely, most probable to me, he was violently attacked. Whether they intended to kill him or just intimidate him, I don't know. But that seems the more likely case. That's completely separate from his role as a CI. If he would have been discovered as a CI, he would have been even more likely to be killed. If he was not known to be a CI, they still wouldn't want to release the details, because to release the details of his role as a CI would be to undermine all the other CIs in the world right now who are providing information about worse bad guys than them to the FBI.
Do you hear him not even make the claim that he's dead? He's claiming he was attacked. He has not admitted yet that he's dead.
The promise the FBI makes, the promise CIA makes to all of their assets, is we will protect you. You will provide us information. We will protect you to the best of our ability. The best of their ability, when they're protecting a U.S. citizen in the United States, is pretty high.
Okay, and he just broke one of his own rules. They will protect U.S. citizens to the best of their ability. And in the USA, to the best of their ability, it's pretty high. That big swallow. Know what that swallow is? He just swallowed the truth and a lie at the same time. That swallow comes from the next line is, he's not dead. I don't think Epstein's dead. And I don't think there's any files that we're ever going to see. Did he do things? Probably. Probably. But I don't think he's dead. I don't think there's any list that really relates to stuff all. Everything is swinging off them Epstein files. Everything. But yet, who's seen them? We're not going to get to see them. I've thought that too, pretty much all along. I don't reckon we're going to get to see any files. All we'll get to see is pages with black ink all over them. You know, let's go on. Get on with it. Get on with it, bro. You're fucking dragging your foot. You know, it's fucking nearly 3 o'clock. My brain doesn't switch off sometimes. It's annoying. It's just... If you was my brain, you'd be very, very tired. It never stops. My subconscious mind won't leave me alone.
It is, like this one is wild to me in terms of what does it say about the state of the government, I guess? Or
it
just
doesn't say anything new. That we've all believed that we're good. we've all believed that we're on the right side of humankind and we're a good and decent government.
When I watched House of Cards, it didn't seem plausible. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. Very over the top. I'm like, get out of here. And then Epstein happened. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, this might actually be like the level of chicanery that's actually going on. That's where I'm like, wow, this is really hard to metabolize.
Again, you have to look at those two razors that we talked about, right? Occam's razor and Hanlon's razor. Is it more likely that we only recently became corrupt as a federal government? Is it only recently that we became highly politicized and survival oriented? Or have we always been that way, but the advent of technology has made it more transparent to the layperson? Which one of those is more likely? Well, if you take the most simplest explanation, we've always been that way. So it meets Occam's razor to believe that we've always been this way. We've always been this way. It's just that technology has made it so that you and I can now keep up with it at a faster pace. And then if you look at Hanlon's razor, don't subscribe to conspiracy, that which can be explained through idiocy. Then again, we've always been this way. It's not that we've been able to keep a secret. It's just that nobody's had real-time access into so much information about what's happening in government. We've never had so many leaks. We've never had so much press interest. We've never had so many channels to communicate the information that we're collecting. We've never had, like you were saying before, podcast journalism or social journalism or community journalism, whatever isms you want to call them. We've never had that before. Everybody was too busy working on an assembly line.
I like that. Occam's razor and Hamlin's razor. Yeah, I like that. Occam's razor and Hamlin's razor. I've done the Occam's razor. I've done the conspiracy. Like, there. I've done the Occam's razor. It's technology has made things much more transparent and quicker information to get. It also makes things a bit gobbledygooky, and there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Counter information out there. You know, counter fact, opposite to a fact. That's what I class as the rabbits in the bottom of the rabbit holes that you're chasing around, purposely put there to lead you in the wrong direction, to lead you astray, to make you chase red herrings. And you got Hamlin's razor. Do not subscribe to conspiracy, that which you can explain with idiocy. Well, I've done that as well. I've done a conspiracy. I've done the Occam's razor, Hamlin's razor. Now I'm going through all the God, spit the words out. I'm not wording very well. What you can explain with the receipts, with historical evidence, verifiable historical evidence and fact. It's debunking some things and double down verifying many other things. Why? Because I'm prepared to question myself, my own beliefs, all the time. Doesn't mean I'm forever jumping the fence. It means I'm going to where the evidence takes me. Which is why I believe I'm at least 75 to 80% correct on most things. And some things I just know I'm fucking on the money. I know exactly how this law system goes. Why? Because I've been part of it. I've been stuck in the middle of it and just watched it, and I saw the pattern form, and the pattern is there. The math be mathin', you know.
Or trying to scrape together two sticks to make a light, right? We never had that in the past. So when I look through the laws of analysis, it just confirms for me what I learned when I was at CIA. The average American has no concept of how the government works. And the average world citizen has no concept of how their government works, and for sure they have no concept of how the US government works. The largest, wealthiest, most militarily powerful government in the world. You think that we became that way by playing fair? You think we became that way by standing on the moral high ground? That's not how government works. That's never been how government works. That will never be how government works. The whole reason we have a representative government is so that we don't have to have blood on our hands as the voters. We can elect someone else to go do the dirty work.
Are we ever going to get transparency into who Epstein was and what he did?
I don't believe we will. I don't believe we will because it doesn't benefit our national security infrastructure to tell the true story. We might get answers, but we'll never know if the answers that we're given are complete, accurate, or truthful. Because every government knows you have to give the people something to follow. And then that doesn't have to be the truth. Just like what's happening right now in the Caribbean. Why do we have a military buildup in the Caribbean? Because of Venezuela? Run that through the two razors that we talked about. It doesn't make any sense. But that's what we're being told. And because we're being told that, we accept that. Nobody's questioning whether or not our military presence in the Caribbean is due to something else.
China!
You think it's China?
That's what I believe.
We'll get to that in a minute. If you were advising the Trump administration right now, how do you get enough Epstein file out there, lie or otherwise, that people go, cool, got it, check, thanks, we finally got the transparency that we needed?
You don't want people to say, cool, I'm done. You always want to have this red herring. This is the definition of a red herring. A red herring is a useful tool that you can use to distract people. You want the Epstein case to always be available as a red herring. So if I was advising the Donald Trump organization, I would say do exactly what you're doing right now. Donald Trump, you tell the people officially, I think that you should let the House vote on releasing the files. Even though the president, as the leader of the executive branch, could do it himself. He could tell the judicial branch to do it, and they would arguably, as commander-in-chief, be hard-pressed not to listen to him. But he's not doing that. Instead, he's making it the House's problem. He's making it Congress's problem. So
red herring. What's an example of a red herring that we have at the moment? Here in Tasmania, a knife problem. A violence issue. Now, let's run things through Occam's razor and Hamlin's razor like he did. Do we really have that much more violence? Or is it that we just have much more access, more instant access to far more variety of outlets to find it when we're doom scrolling? Are we just having the level of violence we've always had thrown in our face? The red herring. Yeah, violence is definitely on the rise. It's been the flames have been stoked with. The flames have definitely been stoked with flamethrowers. They're definitely throwing bottles of petrol on the fire to fan the flames of violence. But it's being blown completely out of proportion. How do you know that? Read the stories properly. Like in Tasmania, one of the main stories that the Advocate newspaper ran was a story about someone who got stabbed in 2019. It's nearly 2026. In 3 years' time, that story will be 10 years old. But that's their excuse for bringing out all their little magic, metal detecting fairy wands. Bling! You've got a pocket knife. So I've always had a pocket knife. I got my first pocket knife when I was 7 years old. I got 2 rifles when I was 9. I don't. Sorry, your argument's valid and mute. I've never stabbed anyone. I've never shot anyone. I've never pointed a fire at anybody. Your argument's mute. I'm sorry to say. You're just very misguided. But because of the red herring, everyone's going along with it. Oh yeah, we got a problem with knives. We got a knife problem in Tasmania. We got a machete problem in Melbourne. No, we have a people don't mix with our culture problem in Australia. It's called multiculturalism. Doesn't work. It was never going to work. It was never meant to work. Not for us. Multiculturalism, of course it can't work. How on earth is that? I mean, every argument ever has been about culture and religion, so let's just smash them all together and see what happens, eh? Red herring. The old bait and switch.
It's like, hey, Congress, you do this thing from the legislative branch. And I'm going to be the one that's the figurehead saying, the leader saying, you do the thing that's going to help the American people. And then simultaneously, you're telling Kash Patel, release whatever you need to release that doesn't compromise current investigations, and anything that looks bad on our current administration, redact. Now Kash Patel, the leader of the FBI, Pam Bondi, the head of Homeland Security, they can both go in there and they can redact anything that they decide looks bad on the current administration or is related to a current criminal investigation, and release that. And the American people will say, oh, well, now we have all the files, but what about all these redactions? And now the Justice Department can always say those redactions are critical for national security.
Now, I've always viewed Conan O'Brien as one of the good ones. A liberal, sure, but not a guy that needed to...
Because the stability of the federal government, the survivability of the current administration is considered a national security priority.
Yeah, this is going to get weird. Like, this has not been good for his presidency, and his inability to fix the economy in a timely manner, which I think is impossible, but nonetheless, is a double whammy. We shall see.
Well, I think Donald Trump is also, he's a very practical personality. No matter how you cut it, you can kind of accept that there's a pragmatism when you look at it through the lens of Donald Trump protecting Donald Trump, that survival instinct. He's any failure that he has in a campaign promise is something that he can distract from. He also promised to not start any new wars, and he's gone back on that several times, right? He's turning into a very conflict-oriented president, not only with Iran, but also with Venezuela. That goes completely against the campaign promise. He's done an about-face on releasing JFK files. He's done an about-face on releasing Epstein files. Those were also campaign promises. You see him trying to boost the economy in traditional ways. The traditional ways are not that different from the way Biden or Obama tried to boost the economy either, even though he tries to make it look different. He knows that probability-wise, this is his last term. And coming out of this term, he wants all the benefits of being a former president, and he wants to shore up as few risks as possible that carried over with him into the presidency. So Donald Trump's there to take care of Donald Trump, and the United States will be a secondary benefit, but that's his primary goal.
Also, don't get me wrong, I'm not naive. I have no disillusions nor illusions that is also a bit of PR, a bit of public relations into telling us why the Epstein files are never going to be released. One, I believe that there aren't really any real Epstein files that do any real damage, and were there really all them children? I'm starting to think no. A handful, maybe. In reality, how do we know that those photos are even not photoshopped? How do we know that those photos aren't family members and stories are just made up? I'm going to do a bit of a history deep dive here next few days, and I'm going to look at what current events and social affairs and national issues politically and legislatively and law-wise and all that took place around the time of Lindy and Azaria Chamberlain Was it a distraction? I don't know. I think it's worth looking back into that, just to see what else took place at the same time. Who knows? I might unearth something else that's related to what's going on now. That's how I roll with things. I look for things that are directly related to things, or indirectly, that support something else that is directly related. I don't do the rabbit holes. I look for the receipts. What else have I come to a conclusion of lately? I used to think Whitney Webb was a brilliant mind that done a lot of investigating. Did she? Or is she just a very, very imaginative and gifted storyteller who wrote the book? Is it an investigative journal? Or is it all fiction? Did she write the fictional book that supports Jeffrey Epstein? Did she write the playbook? I think so. I'm starting to think that. Why? Because she gets all the airtime with all the Fox and Friends, ex-Fox and Friends platforms. Glenn Beck, Tucker Carlson, Bongino, all the popular dudes that are all in their little circle jerk of platforms with the million plus subscribers. Just saying. If you go back a little bit to the video I'd done on the Great Carlos, I'm the Great Carlos, the 60-minute scam that only took them a week to put together, and they fooled the entire world. Apart from a couple of journalists like George Negus and that other thing with the horse teeth. Fooled everyone. Even after it was all over and done with, there were still people fooled. Just goes to show how gullible people are and how easily fooled they are. I actually think the same person that set that up has got something to do with all this and what's going on now. Anyway, I'm trying to get to sleep now. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Let's see how I go. I've got to get up in the morning early. We'll see how that goes. I've had 2 hours sleep. I'm good. Night, guys. God bless you.